What's up, trainers? How's it going? Welcome back to Trainer Radio. We are here for episode 4, I believe. We are still on a roll, 4 weeks in a row. We have an awesome guest and friend here, Ryan. Ryan, how you doing?
We're doing great, Aaron. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing well, doing well. I don't know if you know, but we have a fire round like straight off in this podcast.
Okay, I'm ready. I can take some hits.
Get to know you a little bit more. Got to know, of course, favorite Pokemon right off.
It's gotta be Pseudo-Wudo right off the bat.
Pseudo-Wudo. Okay. Can you explain? Like, usually it's like rabid, but I'm actually really interested.
Absolutely. So I qualified for the first Players Cup Online with Pseudo-Wudo,
Okay.
funny enough. And also, I just recently used it in the second Players Cup qualification for VGC. I think I'm getting in with it as well. So, but besides that, I just find that it is the funniest Pokemon. It's, I'm in theater, right? And if there's one Pokemon that reminds me of the theater, it's got to be Pseudo-Wudo, the imposter tree that is a rock type, and at the same time just always has the best personality when you're watching any of the cartoons or anime. So I just really love the Pokemon overall. And in one of the newer Pokemon movies as well, Pseudo-Wudo was one of like the main cast of characters that were there. So big fan.
True. That's a great answer. Oh man, Pseudo-Wudo. I never like used the the Pokemon in my teams or anything, but like yeah, when I was seeing it, I was kind of like, yeah, there's something interesting, different about this one.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, let's get into the games then. Since you mentioned that, what's your favorite gen?
It's got to be Hoenn. It's got to be Hoenn all the way.
Okay. Is your not Gen 1?
No. Papa Blastoise can get out of here with his very, very biased wet takes because, Blastoise, but Gen 3 all the way. I'm a Hoenn guy.
Awesome. So, Ryan, if I walked into your gym, I want to get your gym badge, right? What am I going to run into? What's your type?
It's a great question. I know I'm not a bug type trainer. I'll tell you that right now. I don't like bugs,
Okay.
But I think ghost types, or dark types, things having to do with illusions or something may not be as they seem. So I think my gym, it'd be a little bit tricky to get through, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
I think a ghost or dark type gym, something like that, where things aren't as they seem to be, if that makes sense.
I like it. I like that. Very close to mine. So along your Pokemon journey, do you have a favorite item in your collection?
I do. Yeah, I think one of my favorite items right now, and it's a highly sought after item as well. And it's kind of recent. So I went to the Nashville World Championships in, I believe it was 2018. And I picked up one of the hatch print posters that they were selling in the Pokemon Center, and they made a very, very limited quantity of these. And it was at the very beginning of the pandemic in like late February, early March, where I saw there's a guy who goes by DC on Twitter. He's like the lead event organizer for Pokemon events.
Okay.
And so he was trying to pick one of those up, and people are selling them for like $400 to $500 a piece.
Wow.
It's insane, the pricing on these things just for a poster. But it's so cool looking, and it's so fascinating. And like all people, I have cards from when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I've got a plushie here and there. And you know what? I have to do a shout out. I got to do a shout out. We got Dirt Ments. So I was at a VGC local in Indiana, and we went to a nearby mall that had like little curios and things. And in the shop, they had a bunch of knockoff Pokemon figures. And every Salamence in the box looked the same. They all look like this.
Yeah.
And so all of us got one. So there are like 6 of these in existence just around the VGC community.
That's amazing.
Fantastic.
That's a good story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, let's get on to the last one. I want to hear a time where you dropped a Pokeball. We're talking like maybe a failure or something you didn't do as well as you wanted to, that when you look back, you're like, ah, man. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Dallas Regionals 2019 is probably a moment where, I over the years here, I've been playing VGC since about 2015. That's when I really got started and knew nothing, absolutely nothing. I didn't even know how EVs and IVs work, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And so here comes Dallas 2019 regionals. We're in a series called Moon Series. It's a very weird, very restricted sort of set of rules, and not a lot of people like it. I, on the other hand, crazy for this series, absolutely in love. And I'm like, I know the play, I know the call. I'm going to bring a Landorus Therian with all of the moves that Venusaur knows with the move Imprison. And if you don't know what the move Imprison does, it locks the opponent's moves if your Pokemon knows the same moves. So what I did was I taught a Landorus Therian, a special attacker for this scenario, Sludge Bomb, Grass Knot, and at this time, Venusaur could not learn Earth Power, but I had Earth Power on it for the Z move, and then Imprison. So I locked Venusaur in 2019 out of using any of its offensive moves because it had Grass Knot for Groudon.
Okay.
Had Sludge Bomb for Xerneas, for just to kind of give you an idea, right? And then what was the item on my Landorus? Well, none other than safety goggles so that I could not be hit by sleep powder, right? And so here I am walking up to this regional like, I have this in the bag. No one is going to think that I have something this crazy. Well, they didn't have to, okay? It did not work out. It was a complete fail. I went into it with such confidence, and, I went into the weekend thinking like, yes, I got this, and came out of it like, okay, maybe I didn't have this as much as I did, but I have to respect the amount of confidence that I put into this and the amount of effort that I did. So I walked out with a failure, but in a sense, as many of us know, failures are truly a great learning opportunity to keep moving forward. And here we are today.
I love that philosophy. Now, the initial question in my mind is, how many times did you get to use that whole strat?
So I only got to use it at that tournament. So because of the way Pokemon does their tournaments, you play Swiss rounds all day, which means that I didn't just get eliminated in 2 different sets and call it a day. I got to use it a couple times with players, but it's really hard in a best-of-3 format to pull off something like that because then your opponent can expect it. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So it's really great for best-of-1. And at the time, I think I was still learning the difference between building a team for best-of-1 where you only face your opponent 1 time versus facing your opponent 2 or 3 times, depending on who wins and who loses in that set itself, right? So I got to do it a couple times. I was happy I got to do it, but overall, it didn't work out entirely as I wanted to, and it wasn't using that Pokemon to its max potential like I should have been with probably a different set. Let's
There we go. Yeah, I'm still learning all of that. My eyes are open a little bit in last episode when we talked to Frank about deck building, but just like the difference between best-of-1, best-of-3 is huge. Like I never even thought of that. Like locals, I'm teching. No, that's not what you're supposed to do. Like you do like the most consistent. Like, okay, well, there we go. So can you give us like a roadmap of your personal journey so we can get to know you a little bit better? And then I think we'll probably share some common experiences along the way here in this podcast and some other details that maybe I know nothing about yet. So can you give us a roadmap? I know you've been a creator, a caster, I'll leave it over to you.
All over, absolutely. So my Pokemon journey sort of begins in the summertime. Summertime was where I was usually finding myself up in Maine with my family. I'm from Massachusetts originally. And my mom, she's obsessed with this small town in Maine called Agunquit. So frequently I'd go up to Agunquit. And in recent years, my mom saved up enough money, bought a house up there, very happy for her. And so it was the summer of 2013, 2014, both of those summers where, I was sort of looking for stuff to do, trying to find new avenues of things to kind of keep myself entertained, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And here I come, coming along here. Twitch is starting to kind of become popular. YouTube is booming at the time. And Pokemon VGC World Championships, they pops up on my feed, okay? Late August, I see what all the fuss is about. I go, oh, I remember this. When I was a kid, I I played Pokemon on my Game Boy with my friends. And funny story about that, I never was allowed to play video games as a kid because my mom was a teacher. And so because of that, one of my friends who a little bit richer than me, my family, middle class, many of the friends that I went to school with, they came from a town that was a little bit higher status, higher class. Okay. So they had a little bit more money than my family. And he goes, here's a Pokemon Ruby cartridge. I didn't have a Game Boy to play on. So anytime I'd have a play date or something like that, I'd beg my friends to say, hey, can I use your Game Boy just for an hour? Like, I just got to play a little bit more. I want to beat the game. And so that was my childhood, playing through Hoenn and just trying to catch Latios and getting through Victory Road. Let me tell you, young Ryan getting through Victory Road was some of the most stressful nights of my life, spent in a basement in the dark, just sitting there on a Game Boy SP that I had borrowed from a friend, just trying to get through. And so many years later, I'm seeing this video game played out. And, I never truly stopped playing after Hoenn. I played them, my grandparents gave me a DS for Christmas in I think 2011, something like that, to play Pearl on, which I got from a friend for my birthday. And then after that, I just sort of kept up with the video games, but I never knew how to grasp the actual video game itself. So I was a casual player. My friends who were gamers, who knew more about gaming than me because they had computers or an Xbox or stuff like that, they were able to grasp the idea of what Pokemon was about. Type effectiveness and super effective and not effective, that sort of thing, right? The type chart. And then I, was just like, okay, I sort of know what these are, but there are so many different types. How do I figure it all out? And so my friends would always beat me in battles. And, once EVs and IVs became more popular and more well-known, because even in the Gen 4 and Gen 3 games, it was really hard to EV and IV unless you specifically knew how to do it. And, the internet was still sort of new in those days in 2010, 2009, 2012, that sort of time. So there wasn't that much out there as a young kid that I knew to look for, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So my friends were leagues ahead of me when it came to playing Pokemon. And so it kind of became, I got really competitive about it. I was like, man, if my friends can learn how to play this game and do it well, why can't I? And so I spent a lot of time trying to get better, and I just could never beat them. And then that's where Pokemon really started to take a hold on, me wanting to do it more seriously. 2014 comes along that summer. As I mentioned before, I'm watching the World Championships. I didn't watch them as closely, so, I'm not sitting over here as a Sejun Park stand with Pachirisu and that whole crowd, but I heard a lot about it. I was like, wow, this is incredible. This is so cool. How do you go and do this? I did not come from a family that was like, oh yeah, we'll go drive you to a video game, local or a regional, right? So I had to wait until I was in high school to really have access to go and do these types of things, because just came from a sports family, and I grew up doing theater for the most part, and so video games and all that, it just wasn't something that was super, supported in my family. One thing that was supported though were the cards. My mom and dad, they'd buy cards. There was a local shop I'd go to when I was younger and go buy cards there with quarters and things that I could find. There's a little slot machine that I could put a quarter into, and the cards would pop out and be like, come on. Like, I wish I could get something good. Nothing was ever good in those. If I could go back and tell myself to stop wasting quarters on that machine, I would, but
do you remember which set was in there? Because I have this distinct memory. I could be totally wrong, but I can't even remember the set. But it's the maybe Legendary Collection. There's weird reverse hollow. They were just in those, and now there's just so much money.
Yes, legitimately. There were some weird cards that were in there. Sometimes, I'd see some really old cards from Fossil or some of those really early sets that just, common cards that the owner of the store just tossed in there. But who would have known? Who would have known, right?
I totally forgot about that.
My Pokemon journey, while I liked the video game, actually got started in the trading card game. So 2013, 2014, I was actually going to a local card shop for the first time, and I was learning how to play. So I was there with one of my really good friends. His name is Ian Mann. And he and I would go to this local shop every single week on Saturday morning for 2 hours, sometimes my mom would drive us, sometimes his mom or dad would drive us, that sort of thing. And we'd go, we'd play, we'd go to pre-releases, that sort of thing. And this was the time around Shaman EX, just kind of give you an idea of like when we're talking. So Roaring Skies was one of the big sets at the time when I was playing.
Nice.
Oh yeah, it was. I remember it very clearly. This tiny little shop, probably about 8 tables with 4 seats to a table, just jam-packed with people. And it was always wonderful to go and to meet these people. And so, yeah, I got started with TCG. And then, Aaron, I'm going to tell you, it quickly stopped after that in 2015.
Okay.
And here's why. So I go to 2015 Worlds, and it's blowing my mind, okay? Young Ryan is like, oh, my God, I'm at the 2015 Worlds. Oh, my God, that's Aaron. Oh, my God, that's Wolfie. Oh, my God, all these different people in the community. One of the first people that I had met there that I got a picture with, I have the picture to this day, Airland.
Okay.
Now I think goes like his site's Uzzerland or whatever. Like
something.
This guy, I remember him because I had been checking out his videos and stuff like that, and he was a much more active creator at the time. He was so welcoming to people coming up to him to take photos and stuff like that. And so I took a photo with him. It was one of the first like Pokemon celebrities in my mind that I got to take a picture with, and it was so cool. And so, you know, first day I'm there with a good buddy of mine, and I'm like, okay, tomorrow's the Open. I'm super excited. So I decided I was going to play in the TCG Open. And in 2015, they decided to do the TCG Open and the VGC Open on different days.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Huh.
So it was either that or, you know, I could be wrong. I'm trying to remember right now. I think I was playing in some side events. Yep, here we go. Seismitoad was a very, very popular deck at this time. That's all I'm going to say, Aaron. Okay?
For those of you listening, what he meant to say was Seismitoad was the greatest deck of all time.
Seismitoad is the sole reason why I do not play the trading card game competitively.
Are you serious? That's amazing, but also horrible. I'm sorry.
It is the sole reason why I do not touch the trading card game as a competitive thing anymore. I sit down at a table across from a Czechoslovakian player, a Pokédad, right? He's sitting there speaking to me in a language that I cannot recall. And he's asked me a question, and I'm like, huh? He's like, oh, sorry, do you not speak? And I'm like, no. English, I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, he bobs me in 2 freaking turns because he just, you know, takes 2 turns to set up the Seismitoad. And I was just like, this game sucks. This game really freaking sucks, man.
Oh, man, I'm sorry. Now, I do have to tell you, though, before we go on, that I have moved on. I have moved on from Seismitoad.
I'm glad to hear it because it's an addiction.
Now I play something called Vikavolt V, which says, during your opponent's next turn, they can't play any item cards from their hand. They reprinted it. I've been playing Vikavolt V.
Oh, my God. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
I don't know. Something.
Does preventing your opponent from using items get off your sick kicks of playing this trading card game?
It's that's what it sounds like to me. Play.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if I can't go to a Saturday morning event and make some little kid cry because I beat them in a game of Pokemon, have I really done my job as a player in the community? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. No, that's horrible.
Well, I can't beat the other players. So.
I can't beat the people my own age.
Right.
So, you know, it's got to be someone.
I know. See, we're on the same wavelength here.
Yeah. No, I would never do that to a younger player. So these, so I face him, right? So I'm like, okay, that was just bad luck. I'll just play another guy. Same dude whoops me with the same deck. And I'm like, I am not touching this the rest of the weekend because it's just going to ruin my time. And this is where the seeds are planted for my VGC career at this point in time up until now. So the next day, I play in the VGC Open. I am so happy to be playing. I got Goodra on my team. I got Florges on my team. Florges is a special attacking tank that has a wonderful defense stat, horrible special defense stat, I think. Something like that. It's been a while since I've used that Pokemon.
Okay.
Because it hasn't been in any of the recent games. Okay. Why is the flower Pokemon not in Alola? Don't know why, but they didn't put it in there. Okay. I'm just saying. Just saying that and Sunflora, two very forgotten Pokemon. Anyways, second day, I'm in the open and I see someone I recognize because I had begged my mom to drive me to one VGC local earlier that year in Londonderry, New Hampshire, where an organizer named Patty, I'm just gonna call her Patty.
Okay.
She was the big Northeast, East Coast organizer. She retired a couple years after that, but she was hosting this local, and I had met this tall gentleman there, very, very tall gentleman. You may know him, Aaron. He goes by the name of Warren Arnold. One of my co-commentators for one of the regionals we did, and to this day, a excellent friend of mine.
Awesome.
So I had recognized him from locals, and so I go up to him and I go, "Hey, I don't remember your name, but nice to see you." He's like, "Oh, good to see you here too." Warren is a character. Let me tell you, he's a character, and has probably become one of my most trusted friends. In Pokemon, next to my friends that, were playing the card game with me and had been playing Pokemon with me when I was younger. But when it comes to the competitive stuff, Warren was the first guy I knew. And so I took everything Warren said at his word. And that, I learned over time that maybe not everything that he told me was completely true, but we learned along the way. So at 2015 Worlds, I befriend him. I stay in contact. I meet some cool other people, but really it's just him that sticks as like my close friend in the area that I know. That also plays competitive VGC. And so I start to go back and forth with him. And so that's 2015. Worlds goes by. It's a wonderful event. I love the weekend. I'm in love with Pokemon now. Amazing. 2016 is announced. It's in California. Santa Fe 2016 regionals. No way in heck I'm headed out to California. I'm a senior in high school. I can drive now, but I cannot fly there by myself. No way. So that was not going to be a thing. And, the only way I could go to a regional, I was praying for something to be in Massachusetts because they rarely are. That year, there's a regional 40 minutes away from where I had lived in Massachusetts that year. And so I got to go with Ian and my friend Warren, played in 2016. And if people are familiar with the 2016 format for the Video Game Championship Series, it consists of what they are called as the Big Six. So that regional literally consisted of me playing one of the most meta teams in almost any of the meta games that have existed. And I went even, felt really good about it. And, I just remember going to that event and being like, wow, this is amazing. Regionals, this is the coolest thing in the world. Like, I want to go to more of these in college.
Yeah.
Like, how can I do that? I think that's a lot of things that high schoolers and early college kids ask themselves. How can I afford to travel across the country to be able to do that? And I think that's a really valuable thing. Yeah, maybe you have a question about that.
No, you just keep going. This is my biggest question. Like, this is what I really want to get into.
And so this is something that I think I hit on the head big time, because a lot of young trainers are always curious about this. Because when we're older, Aaron, we go and find jobs that are paying us full time, right, part time, whatever we can do to make it by. But we can save the money and we can put it away. And then when a regional weekend comes, we get the flight, we get the hotel or the Airbnb, or we drive and we go there. We can split the cost with other people, that sort of thing. But so high school, I graduate high school. I have my high school diploma, right? Pokemon did not inhibit my childhood growth and my educational path.
Congratulations. Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you. So I get to college, and I am currently sitting actually right outside my wonderful college right now.
Awesome.
I'm sitting right outside DePaul's campus, DePaul University in Chicago, Illinois. I was accepted into their BFA program for theater arts. And then later I declared a double major in political science, focus in international relations. So while I was doing those two big focuses on my life, another thing that I really wanted to sort of uplift was esports, because over the past few years, it's just been an up and coming thing. So I go, oh my God, I'm going to the third biggest city in the country. There has to be Pokemon in the city. Has to be Pokemon in the city. Well, I get here, I go on the Pokemon locator. Oh my God, there is no Pokemon in city proper. Are you kidding me?
What?
No Pokemon events in city proper? You got to be kidding me. Now, let me rephrase. TCG in city proper. There are some small stores in Chicago City proper that have the TCG. But Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh! A few years ago still held most of the power when it comes to stores and what makes money. To this day, Magic the Gathering is undoubtedly one of the most profitable card games that people are playing right now to this day. And it makes the money. It pays the bills. You cannot go wrong. And so here I am, a freshman in college. I get off one of the red line stops off of Belmont, and I go to the first card shop I can find in the local area. And I go, do you have Pokemon here? And they go, yeah, we've got a little setup here, but we really haven't invested too much into it. And I go, interesting. Okay. So I look into things a little bit more. And the summer before my freshman year, a very good friend of mine, his name is Matthew Verivy. He's a stage 2 Pokemon professor now, and a judge as well. Very committed Pokemon person. He runs a site called PidgeyWiki as well. So if you're ever looking for high resolution art of basically anything Pokemon related, he's the guy. He's the guy who always has it. Really great dude. PidgeyWiki.net, I believe. He's one of the people who runs that, and he's a diehard Pokemon fan, one of the most passionate people I've ever met. Cool. And so he reaches out to my Facebook group for my college and many others and says, I'm starting a Pokemon club on campus. If we remember, Pokemon Go was very big in 2016. That summer it had blown up. And so Pokemon was big. So I go, I have to get on this board. I have to be a part of this because I want competitive Pokemon, video game and TCG at my school, and I want it in my area. The best advice I can give to people if there's Pokemon lacking in your area is if someone else isn't doing it, do it yourself. Be the one to retroactively start up the Pokemon seed in your area, because other people will follow you, and you will find other judges, other organizers that want to learn what you're doing and will expand your scene over time. So,
you guys listening? This is the truth right here.
Yeah, to give you an idea of what Illinois already had. Rebecca was one of the head TOs at the time. She was about, I'd say, 45 minute transportation-wise away from city proper. It took me over an hour to get to them from the city because I had to take public transit and then take an Uber off of a train to go get to the store. So you can imagine my frustration on why there wasn't any competitive VGC in the city itself, right? And then there was another store in Rockford, Illinois, 2.5 hours away from the city of Chicago. Oh my God, run by a wonderful TO, Suzanne, who's still running stuff today. So really there were only 2 TOs, and I was like, this is crazy. I'd been in the scene long enough now that I had heard about Snowhio, the amount of events happening in the state of Ohio because of all the judges and TOs there, because they built up their scene over time. Lots of them were friends, right? Midwest was popping, but not in Chicago, not yet. So my freshman year, it is my goal and my agenda to make our club on campus not only a target for competitive players, but also casual gamers as well, because you can never have a club without your casual base and your competitive base, because the casual base will always be bigger. Always. So I am begging my friend Matthew, who's the president of the club that year. I was a board member. I wasn't even an official board member. I was head of tournament operations, and I was getting my Pokemon Professor account so I could run tournaments and stuff like that. I begged them, and I remember the first meeting I sat down with all of them and I said, guys, we have to do a competitive tournament with the Pokemon Company. All the people sitting around that table looked at me and said, you're crazy. This will never be a thing. This club, this club will never be competitive, and we will never, ever be doing anything like that in this area, ever.
Wow.
You can imagine, I was a little upset by that.
Yeah.
And, but I don't think that Matthew shared that same philosophy, because soon after I applied for my professorship, he did too. And so here are Matthew and I both trying to get our tournament organizer professor qualifications and certifications. You have to go through a background check process, and then you have to get approved after that by completing a test, by reading all of the rule books and handbooks and that sort of thing. Matthew, while he applied after me, he got accepted before me.
Okay.
So I didn't get accepted probably about a month after him.
Okay.
And so now you've got 2 TOs at DePaul University in city proper, can't host CP tournaments yet. Okay, so we have to struggle for basically the next year, where I become president of the club and I push my competitive agenda over the club as much as possible, because this is what I want to do, and this is me getting to how do you travel across the country as a student with money. So what I did was, I reached out to the local scene after going to some local events in 2017, and I go, hey guys, we are going to be hosting events at DePaul. They don't count for CP, but if we get your support, if I can host in 3 months, if I can host 3 individual non-CP tournaments, put them into the system, they will give me the ability to host premier challenges with CP. And so at the time, it was really hard to get players to come to these, because, what is the incentive? The incentive is that you are making an investment in your scene and for the future. And so for all of you listening, if you have a TO in your area that is trying to hold events to then get them to have the ability to host events that give you CP in the future when COVID is done, go to these events.
Yes.
And we only need 4 players at these events now. They changed it this past year, where you only need a minimum of 4 players per event for the event to fire off. So at the time you needed 8, and that was a lot of people. It still is a lot of people. Because with nothing on the line, what's the purpose in going, right? So Matthew and I, we host our events. People come. I have a couple that don't fire, so it takes a little bit longer. Same with him. We struggle and struggle and struggle, and finally, Matthew and I, we jumped the hurdle. It takes so much time. It takes a couple of years of investment as TOs and as judges. We finally are able to host PCs that have CP. So now, the state of Illinois has 4 TOs, 2 of which can hold premier challenges and 2 of which can flipped off the camera, and 2 of which can hold mid-season showdowns as well. So my goal and Matthew's next goal were, okay, well, we want to hold mid-seasons because those attract a lot more players, and but we just have to find the people to host it, because that's the biggest thing. Where in the city can we find a space to host this? And so 2017, my first year in college, goes by. 2018, some interesting things happen around Chicago proper. Remember that original store I had mentioned in early or mid to late 2016, my freshman fall? They close. The owner doesn't properly use the money to keep the store afloat. They close. Brand new store opens up. It's called Good Games Chicago. Good Games is a chain game store from Australia and had been looking for a flagship store in the US. They first went to Indianapolis. They have a store right outside the Indianapolis Convention Center. And which is where internats are typically held if they're not held in Columbus. And so they find a second location in Chicago, and it just happens to be on Webster Avenue, 5 minutes down the road from DePaul University. So myself and Matthew go in and introduce ourselves, and we talk with the managers there, and we go, we would love to have our local league, our college students, to bring business to you and to bring the community closer and into your store in Chicago proper. They loved the idea, and to this day, I think Rob and I think Craig couple people involved over there at Good Games for allowing us to come in there and really just foster a community in Chicago proper. Awesome. And so brand new store opens up. People are loving it. TCG, BGC, all this stuff. And so, up until COVID was happening this past February, we were going with events. Every single month, there was a PC, or there was an LC, there was a cup, there was a midseason showdown, once per quarter, as they do with events like that. And so it's not my junior year at DePaul. I decide to step down, and a friend of mine who I had met my sophomore year becomes the new president. Okay. And he said, his name is Patrick, who was a commentator at Madison Regionals 2019, Patrick Mott. He steps up and says, Matthew and Ryan, I think it's really cool that you guys are both TOs. I want to become a TO as well. And so what happens? Patrick becomes a TO. He goes through what Matthew and I went through. And then on top of that, last year, we find out that there's another TO in Southern Illinois, in Champaign, 2 hours away from Chicago. 6 TOs in the matter of 3.5 years. Dang. How did we get 4 more people? People heard what we were doing. People saw what we were doing. Yes. And with time, with patience, and with that growth, we grew our local scene. And here we are today with a very strong player base, a very strong number of professors and judges in the state of Illinois and in the Midwest in general, because we're a whole big happy family. And I'm just so happy and so proud to see all the people involved, because it takes a lot to host an event. It really does. And it's exhausting, but it's so worth it to be able to give back. The real question I want to get to, Aaron, is, and this is where it sort of takes off for me as a player. Yeah. I'm sitting, it's freshman, I'm going to go back to freshman year. Freshman spring, I'm sitting there. I reach out on Facebook to some group or card shop in Florida, and I go, I would love to be sponsored by your card shop to be able to go to regionals. And they go, do you have any placements? And I go, no, I don't. And they're like, well, you have to have some type of placement. Right. And I go, okay. So I literally make a list at my computer. I go, okay, I don't have any placements. I certainly don't have any money at the moment. Right. And I have this drive to go and play competitively. I want to go and do this. How do I do it? Well, one of the answers was reach out to organizations that might be looking for players to sponsor, and maybe they'll cover some costs, right? This is something that is very rare, but it can happen. Sure. And even now with esports and how it's grown, it's a lot more common to see players who have experience playing the game to get sponsored. So if you don't have experience and you don't have money, but you happen to be in school, this is where, and this is how I did it. So if you have a club at DePaul University, and this applies for many universities, as a student, if you take a close look at what you're paying on your tuition bill, you might notice that there is a fee on that bill, small fee, $50, $60, that goes towards organizations, clubs, and activities at DePaul. Okay. So I go, where's that money going? I find out that organizations on DePaul's campus can access a student-funded account called SAFB. Student Activity Club Fee Board, whatever. Yeah. You can apply to get stuff for your club. I go, okay, that's cool. And then what's the next thing under that? You can apply for conferences, tournaments, trips. I go, ooh, I think I've hit something here. So over the summer, I do my research and I do the work. Come into things sophomore year as president, and I go, okay, here's what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to apply for SAFB to send a group of us to a regional. Don't know if it's going to happen. Don't know if it's going to work, and I don't know if they're going to give us the money, but we'll see. Well, they did. They gave us the money. And after that, it just kind of became history, where almost every month or every other month, depending on the time of year and what the regionals were.
Mm-hmm.
I sent myself and different club members who had and who hadn't gone to these regional events all around the country throughout the year. And it was all funded by student money. I didn't pay anything except food for the weekend. And if I wanted to buy any plushies or cards or anything like that.
Yeah.
But my flight, my hotel and board, and sometimes my tournament registration entirely covered by the school. It's incredible what these institutions provide access to.
Yeah.
You just have to go and look for it. You have to read.
Yes. I love that. So I'm thinking of a title for this episode, and to really sum up the question, how to get college or school to pay for Pokemon. You did it. What, for those listening, what's going through my head too is right now is what were the requirements? And is there a lot of things you have to go through, like hoops or like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, for instance, an organization at DePaul University has to have 2 members of the board. There are 4 people that make up the board. The president and treasurer have to go to 45-minute long training meetings at the beginning of the year, and they host them every month if you miss the meeting. But I made it a point every single year when I was a part of the club, and I just graduated this past spring. So giving you an idea of how many times I was doing this.
Yeah.
Every single year, I made sure I went to the meeting. You sit through the meeting, you sign a form saying you went to the meeting, and then from there, you need to basically, it's getting receipts. So you're not paying for stuff up front.
Okay.
What you do is you fill out an application through your school's student activity portal. Okay. Every school has one. DePaul has their own called D-Hub now. And so you go through the portal, there's a budget tab, and under the budget tab, there are different categories for putting things into. What I had to do and what I mastered and learned early along the way is that the more detailed I was and what I was looking for and what I was doing, the better it would be when it came to asking for the money from a board of students that were in charge of putting out and handing out the money every month. So what I would do is I would get a PowerPoint presentation, and on every slide I would post every school is going to require different things. But what my school wanted was 2 forms of basically, if you need a hotel, you need to post 2 different hotel bookings.
Okay.
And how much they're going to be. That's it. Flights, 2 different flights, how much it's going to be. Okay. For the tournaments, there's only one price. You post a photo of how much it's going to be. You put a map of where you're traveling to. You write up a very simple travel itinerary from Friday to Sunday. This is the most important thing. Okay. When applying for a trip like this, Aaron, you have to make it as educational as possible. Okay. So, and this is true about Pokemon events. We don't just go to game. We go to make friends, to meet people. These aren't just for gaming. These are for networking. And that is how you have to put it. When you are trying to apply for a huge conferencing event, when you're going to a conference, you're going for an educational purpose. Pokemon events have an educational purpose. These events are not just for gaming. They're for getting to know people, because no one in Pokemon is just, I just do Pokemon. Everyone has a backstory. Everything has something else that they're doing. One person could be an IT analyst. One person could be an electrical engineer. Right. One person could literally be like, I work in a restaurant. Right? Yeah. So many different people, so many different ways of going about things. And then on top of that, you connect with the local businesses that are at these events as well. When you go out to eat somewhere, if you need to go and buy something like that. The card shops that are at the event themselves. How many times did I form relationships with different groups and things that could possibly get me jobs down the line? Yeah. So you have to think of these events as an educational experience that will get you connected with other people in a way that not only helps you, but it helps the people you're going with. These trips were never single person trips. That is the other biggest thing about this. Okay. You can never go on a trip by yourself, because to anyone that will look like you're sending yourself on vacation. You need to do it for your club, for your organization, because otherwise it is a trip just for yourself. And the purpose of these trips is to not just go places by yourself. It's to enjoy the time with other people and to meet people and to go and play something that you all really love and enjoy.
Yeah.
And so for these events overall, I had to phrase it, and I always phrase it in this way, that it's not just for the game, it's for the people. And that's why I go, you know?
Yeah.
So as long as you pitch this regional, this event that you're going to, in a way that's educational and promotes your school, promotes your team. If you go to promote the school you're with, they love that. Any free advertising for a university or even a high school, administrations, the groups running this, they just suck that right up, because the more awareness of your school, the more people that want to go to your school, which is money, right? It's all about money. So yeah, I think hopefully that answers it for you.
No, I think so. Like, there's so many ideas in there, like you're saying. Like, you could even have a group. Maybe if you're at your college, you have a few, friends. You're wearing the college merch while you're playing, and you're talking about these cool things. You're talking to tournament organizers, judges, like you mentioned, card stores. Like, there's so many learning experiences inside of a regional that, like, you don't even know. Like, I've met so many people that have a lot of power within the Pokemon world just because I went, and you just run into them. Yeah. So I think that answers that question. I mean, I like the way that you word it. It is for the people. It is for the experience and knowledge. So could you tell us then, Ryan, of a time, maybe the most recent one, where you guys went on your trip and kind of that whole experience?
Absolutely. So let's talk about Dallas Regionals this past year, Dallas 2020 in January. So what happens is that at about 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning, the group of us get together. There were 5 of us in total, including myself, that were going to Dallas.
Yeah.
And so we get up around 5 or 6 a.m. We catch a super early flight into Dallas for a couple of reasons. Number one, if there is ever a reason with a hotel booking, your student activity offices that are in charge of the money typically are closed on Saturdays. So because of that, I would always leave Friday morning, just in case there was an issue with the hotel. So I could call the office back that afternoon when we finally arrived in Dallas and like work out any issues, because the last thing you want to do is have to pay for anything up front, because that's the goal of having your school pay for things. You don't have to pay for it, right? Be prepared when traveling to hotels. Just want to say this. Some states require that you are 21 years of age or older, or someone in the room is 21 years or older. This isn't all hotels, but most. So when going on trips like this with people under 21, just recognize that some hotels may bar you from actually staying there. Even if you are on a school credit card, it doesn't matter. And also, when you get there, you will have to put a card down at the desk if you're renting a hotel. So have someone in the group who has a credit card to just, have that $50 refundable fee that they charge you. Because when you're a college kid, every dollar counts, Aaron. Every penny counts. I was through it. I'm sure maybe you went through it as well.
Yeah, here and there.
Yeah, exactly. So money matters, right? And like $50 for a weekend that could be $50 I don't spend on cards, right? Or plushies or food. So always be prepared. But anyways, 5 or 6 a.m. we fly into Dallas. It's a 4.5-hour flight, so we get into Dallas around like 10 a.m. You can always ask a hotel to check in early. Fun fact, discovered that along the way. So not only did I go to events to meet other people, but I learned about traveling and what it's like to stay in hotels. Like, so much cool stuff, right? So we check in early. We get to our rooms. Luckily, there are no issues, except there's always the one issue I ran into at Dallas, which is you have to have your office fax over a credit card confirmation sheet. Well, funny story about that is that this hotel just never, ever, even with all the planning ahead that I do, can never keep track of the credit card confirmation sheet. So the first year I didn't know it existed. In the next 2 years, I knew it existed. And both of those years I said, oh, we don't have that form. And I go, you definitely have that form, because I sent that form twice to you, called separate times before I even landed here, and you said you had it. So
oh god,
never expect anything to go right with
Right.
hotels because there's always something. But overall, it goes fine. So we're there Friday morning, and as you know, the convention center usually doesn't open until 2 or 3 p.m. on Fridays for regionals. So they're setting up downstairs. You can go and sort of take a peek, but not really. So this is a time to get acquainted with the area. So we go out for lunch in Dallas. We get a look around Texas, right? It's sort
The
of
best part
flat.
of regionals, yeah.
I know exactly. To get to know your local area, to meet the local business owners. So we go and get some wonderful Texas barbecue. And then we come on back to the hotel, and at the hotel, things are starting to open up. And so you're able to go into the hall, and usually there's a league challenge and a premier challenge, TCG and VGC events that are open for play. So I say to my group, I say, you're more than welcome to register for these events. They're about $15 to $20 each to enter in, and it's great practice if you're competing tomorrow. Tomorrow being that Saturday morning. And so a few of us get together. We're entered into the VGC and TCG events. We all play. We have some fun. That's that night. We have dinner at the hotel because there's some wonderful food. There's a bar. It's great.
Awesome.
One recommendation I always have is that I usually go to a Target or a CVS that day before the next day to get granola bars, candy, bottles of water.
Yes.
I think you can never be too thirsty for these events. You always need to stay hydrated, and I recommend splitting a 24-pack of water bottles in a hotel with a couple people. It's like $3 for the whole pack of water. So it's so easy, and the more hydrated you are, I think the better for a weekend, because I think a lot of people will get headaches, you don't sleep enough. Well, if you're hydrated, you usually feel pretty good. The only side effect is that you have to use the bathroom a bunch of times. You know what I mean? And the best part about Dallas is that the regional takes place in the hotel. So if you stay in the hotel at Dallas, you literally can just go up to your room after a round if you finish early and, go use your own bathroom, drink some water, get some food, whatever. Always prepare ahead of time when it comes to food and stuff, because Saturday morning comes along. Early wake up, 6:30 a.m., get downstairs by 7:30 a.m. so you can hop in line to register for the tournament that morning. You submit your team sheet. You have them check over your team, or if you've got a deck of cards, you submit your deck list by 8:30 a.m. You go and get your deck checked by the judges. And this is where you start to see all your VGC friends. If you didn't see them coming into the hotel the day before, everyone's there. Some people flew in the last minute at 2 a.m. last night. Some people flew in super late, or some people just got in, rushing to the registration table. Insane. You get through registration, you're sitting, you're waiting, the anticipation is building. This regional was the first regional that the Nintendo Switch was being played on for Pokemon Sword and Shield. A lot of players didn't know how it was going to go or how it was going to be. A regional was run the weekend before in Europe, and so we got a good look at how the Pokemon Company was actually covering this regional. Every table had power strips, cords, and docks for Switches, because Nintendo Switches, as we know, have a few hours of battery life. Nothing compared to the Nintendo DS with many, many hours of battery life. So every table had an Ethernet connected stand to another Switch. So we went back to the days of having to connect up consoles here. And so the day goes by, the day starts. There are very few issues I find. Sometimes there's a stand or a cord that doesn't work exactly right, but the judges come over and fix that as soon as possible.
Cool.
This was a 13-hour competition day. Probably one of the longest I've done when it comes to playing the video game. It was the largest regional we've ever had for the video game in a long, long time. And I think it was the largest one ever. So it was a big deal, right? And so it was like 10 rounds, 12 rounds even. It was super long. Usually regionals were like 7 or 8 rounds. So I think this one was 10. This one was 10. So, give or take the time in between rounds, it was a 12 to 13-hour day. I was, by the end of it, I was feeling super energetic. I don't know why. I don't know how. Maybe the adrenaline was still running because I was so excited to be there. My friends were exhausted, man. People were so tired, from the judges to the organizers to other players. they couldn't believe how long this day was. And I couldn't either, but it was so much fun. And I got to see all my friends again, from all over the country, sometimes all over the world. We even had the former 2018 world champion, Paul Ruiz, come to this event in Dallas because that's how big of a deal it was, for Sword and Shield, right? And so Saturday, up until about 7 or 8 p.m., that's when the tournament day ends. And so after that, you get a group of people together. Obviously, when you go to these events with a group of college kids, your group, your school, it is always best to stick together because you may be tempted to want to go join your BGC friends. But, for me, I was always sort of leading these groups because I was the one who was like, let's go to Dallas.
Right.
You got to respect the people in your group. There's nothing worse than someone in the group being like, I'm just going to go off and go do this thing. And I'm like, I'm not your dad and I'm not your guardian for this trip, but I am sort of responsible for you in the sense that, like, I need to know where you are.
Right.
Because you need to go back with us on Sunday night to Chicago, and you got to be there with me. I can't leave anyone behind, or else I will never, ever get to go on a trip like this again. Luckily, that never, ever happened because I was always like, guys, we'll go out to dinner together. We'll stick together. Always stay connected via Facebook Messenger, text, Discord, whatever you need to do on these trips to stay connected to one another. Do it.
Yeah.
So Saturday night, some VGC friends of mine joined me and my DePaul crew. We'd go out to another restaurant all together. Each of us takes an Uber. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Venmo is your best friend, or PayPal for these types of trips to pay people for Ubers and for food and stuff. Saturday night, we go out for food. None of us have made day 2. So the next day, there's a mid-season showdown and then a League Cup for the TCG. So you spend Sunday relaxing. You get up a little bit later. If you don't make day 2, you can sleep in, enjoy some wonderful Sunday buffet and breakfast downstairs in the hotel restaurant. Fantastic there. Then you finally go downstairs into the lobby of the convention center, the big ballrooms and stuff, at around like, let's say 10 a.m., 9:30, maybe even a little bit later, 11 or 12. The day doesn't end until about 5 or 6 p.m. when everyone starts packing up and all the events have wrapped up, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's truly a great time, on Sunday to just sort of relax. Now is the time where if you want to go and buy stuff last minute from the stands, you can go and do that. If you didn't do it already on Friday, as soon as you got there. And then
you're making me miss these tournaments.
I know. And then typically Sunday night, we would fly home at around 5 or 6 p.m. Just the perfect time to leave because there really isn't much that happens after about 3 or 4 p.m. So you can get a flight at around 5 or 6. And then, be home in time for dinner.
So I think I think we're going to end it here. There's so much that we have yet to talk about. So I think I'm going to invite you back here shortly.
Wonderful.
Awesome. And yeah, I think this is a good summary to the whole college experience, then how to get into, start your own groups and stuff. So I think this is its own topic, but you and I have a lot to talk about here.
We have so many things to talk about, Aaron. And I really, when COVID is all said and done, I just really wish that if there's anyone watching this video that is, or listening to this podcast that wants more advice or wants more help, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to Aaron because, I've talked to him a bunch about this, and there's just so much that can be done in terms of wanting to go and do something like Pokemon. You just have to take the steps to go and do it.
Agreed. So where can the people find you?
They can find me in a couple places. The Pokemon community is found in a couple places for the competitive aspect of things. The best way to reach me is going to be Twitter. Ryan PB Hebert is my handle. I make it pretty easy, and the same for Discord as well. I'll send it over to Aaron over there so he can list it down below. Feel free to reach out to me. Twitter's always going to be better, but I've got Discord as well. I have a YouTube channel as well. That's just going to be for a future video when we talk about content creation and all the other things I've done in the community besides being a judge and a TO and starting up your own scene because I'm a player as well, and there's a reason why Sudowoodo is my favorite Pokemon, as I mentioned very early on in this video.
Yeah.
But Aaron, thank you so much for having me on. Truly appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you guys. And if you guys enjoyed the episode or have any questions, hit us up in the comments. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the video channel or podcast, and we'll see you guys next time. All right. Train on.